live now. Okay, let's see. Okay, so says I've got audio, says I've got video, so now I just sit back, relax, and wait for the party to begin. If you are watching this live after the fact, welcome to Jack's World of Wildlife live Q&A. Hopefully, is anybody here yet? Can you guys tell me if you can hear me or not? Because I do not know. Says that my microphone is on. Says that I'm not muted. Anybody in the chat, let me know if I'm muted or not. Can you hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. Yes. Perfect. Awesome. So we'll let everybody kind of trickle in a little bit. But yeah, this is going to be super exciting. This is the first live stream we've done in like over a year, I want to say. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome. Welcome, Lizard Tortilla. Sup to you too. I don't know why my eye looks like it's like lazy for some reason in this camera. I don't have a lazy eye. See, my eyes are normal. Ever eat bugs or snakes? Great question. Coming out swinging. I have eaten bugs. Yes. I've not eaten any snakes. I don't really think snakes would taste all that good. Mostly because they're just kind of skin and bone. Even a larger snake, it's a lot of bone in there. So I don't think I'd ever eat a snake, but bugs are a great source of protein. Really nice. Let a tarantula bite you. Okay. Hi Jack. What is the most painful bite you've had? Very easy. Southern black widow. Absolutely. 100% the southern black widow, Latrodectus mactans. That was pretty excruciating pain for about 11 hours and then pretty decent pain for the next like week and a half, 2 weeks. So it was pretty rough. But yeah, it was not so good. It was really bad. How many spiders / pets do you have? So I have a few pets. I also breed a lot of poison dart frogs. I don't quite call my poison dart frogs my pets, but if I were to count them, I have around, I don't know, 25 poison dart frogs of various species and localities at the moment. As far as spiders go, I have 3 jumping spiders, bold jumping spiders, because that's pretty much the main species around me. I also have a Malagasy or Madagascan widow spider, and I also have a very large northern black widow. And those are my pets, as well as my Neoponera villosa, my hairy panther ant, my Texas bullet ant colony. I have a lot of those as well. In my planted vivarium, which if you're interested in taking a look at, you can watch my ant vivarium video from earlier this year that we filmed, I think, in January. What's the most painful bite I've had? How many spiders do I have? Have I ever been hospitalized? Yes, but not for anything animal related. The only time I've ever gone to the hospital was when I was in kindergarten. I had a pretty severe asthma attack. I had asthma pretty bad when I was a kid. So I had to go to the hospital for that. Not for any bites or anything like that. So I haven't been to the hospital since then. So yeah, that's 15, 17 plus years I haven't been in the hospital. Let's see. Watching from Scotland, we don't have any poisonous stuff. Tear. That's so sad. I like too much your videos. Continue like that. I'm not sure I know what that means. I don't know if you remember, but I shared the story about my copperhead bite on your venom versus blood video. My question is, would you ever consider getting bitten by a copperhead for a video? I have considered it every once in a while. We ended up kind of landing on that venom versus blood experiment, kind of taking the place of like having a baby copperhead bite, just because I think it wouldn't get the point across as well as I would like. I think a lot of people would like watch the video if I got bitten by a copperhead, of course. But I think it would really kind of miss the mark for a lot of people. They'd be like, "Oh, this was stupid. Why do you do that?" I also don't like to subject vertebrates like snakes to the levels of stress that it would require to get one to bite me. Because really, it would probably be, if it were to bite on my arm, like how I normally do, like a bite test, a baby copperhead would probably be really similar to Vespa tropica in that it would be really painful. I would get a lot of swelling, maybe even a little bit of necrosis. But it's, of course, from if you've watched that video, it's not a life threatening bite. It would just really be uncomfortable. And I'm not sure that it would be the most effective way I could convey that information. A lot of the stings and bites, it's just like easy to do. Like, oh yeah, I'll put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. But so many people are bitten by copperheads a year. We really have a good understanding of what their venom actually does. So I don't know that it would really be as on brand for me to film a baby copperhead bite video in that capacity, but you never know. As of right now, no thank you. A great question. Let's see. What are some upcoming videos you have planned? Well, I have tons of stuff that I have coming in from Thailand. I think I still have 10 videos ish from Thailand that were filmed and I haven't edited yet. My next video is a little bit of a surprise, but I think you guys are going to like it. Some other videos I have coming up are going to be. I've got beautiful Malaysian horned frog video. I've got some cool, like crazy millipedes. We have a termite bite test. I got bitten by a really large termite soldier. So I think you guys will enjoy that. We also have Malaysian blue coral snake. We've got this really crazy tentacle snake video as well that we filmed, as well as a handful of other videos that I filmed back here in the States. And then we have a special little trip coming up at the end of this month, where hopefully we'll get some more interesting videos. Great question. Let's see. Completely agree. Wouldn't recommend doing a copperhead bite. Thank you. Yes. How does it feel to be bitten by a European hornet? The European hornet, I only was able to test a queen, and it really wasn't all that bad. I think I'd like to test a worker next, just to make sure. But I'd have to imagine it's pretty similar to most other wasps, most of the other polystes, the umbrella paper wasps, and stuff like that. As far as it goes, I don't see it being all that much. The queen, like I said, was a little underwhelming. If you'd like to see that reaction, you can check out my. I think it's titled like "Murder Hornet?" question mark stung by a European hornet, Vespa crabro, or something like that. Because it was during the time where a lot of people were like scared about murder hornets, and they were finding Vespa crabro, which has been invasive in the eastern United States for a long, long, long time, and thinking, oh no, the murder hornets are here. So I was trying to like get some of those people who are searching that kind of thing in to watch the European hornet video so they actually know. It's just a European hornet. It's not a murder hornet. Let's see. Do you think murder hornets will keep expanding? I really don't. There were like 2 workers that were found dead. There was like 1 abandoned nest that they found in the US. I do not see them coming a widespread problem, mostly because they target European honeybees pretty heavily. And we spend so much money on European honeybee agriculture and stuff like that. I do not see that Asian giant hornets would be able to realistically become invasive. And the whole invasion was very, very exaggerated. Like I said, just a handful of those hornets were actually found in the U.S. So I wouldn't worry about that. Hey, Jack, are you going to do the giant toe biter, my sir? I would like to eventually. We're a little late in the season for them this year. I actually didn't run into any this year, so we'll see. We'll see what the bug gods have in store for us. But I'm kind of at the whim of whatever we kind of come across. Have you ever considered making any bite or sting videos on any sea life? Great question. Like crown of thorns, starfish, or things like that. I have considered it. We might even do some of that in the future, although it's very hard for me to realistically do that because I live in Texas. And even though we do have a coast, that coast is over 5 hours away from where I live. So it's very difficult to get out there. And then once you get out there, the Gulf of Mexico up by me, it gets so much sediment from the Mississippi River that it's very hard to like find or locate specific things that you're looking for. We don't really have a lot of like tidal pool areas where you can find a lot of invertebrates. So it usually, if I'm going somewhere else, I might have a better chance of finding some of those stinging marine animals. But it's very hard for me to pull off. Whereas, I'm in Texas, so I can just walk out and find any number of spider or wasp or scorpion. So it's usually just easier for me to find and test insects. Will you have wasps as pets next? I would love to keep a colony of wasps. I actually tried to do this last year and I wasn't successful. It's a little bit different than keeping ants, but it's something I might try again in the future. I think it would be really cool. I love wasps. I find them super interesting, super fascinating. I love keeping ants as well, but it's very hard to kind of establish a colony. Harder than I anticipated it. So I don't know. We'll see if I can perfect my strategy. Maybe I'll do that. Um, Jack, you do much with plants, poison or non? I really kind of mostly focus on like tropical plants that I can propagate in my vivarium. So a lot of philodendron, a lot of bromeliads, a lot of like shingling plants like Markgravia or Rhiphidophora or those types of things. I don't really raise a lot of poisonous plants or kind of larger impressive plants. Sometimes I have larger installations. I do like plant installations for some customers in the DFW area, and I'll install larger like monstera or things like that, but not a lot of poisonous stuff. No. Most people wonder what a house centipede bite is like. Well, maybe if I run across a good size one, maybe we can test that. That would be interesting. Did you go to uni to learn all of this stuff? So I was in college. I was pursuing a degree in biology and entomology. I'm currently on academic break because I was really wanting to get out and teach people about the world and try and get people interested in conservation and stuff like, and I'm kind of on a timetable there, right? Because there's a lot of these ecosystems, a lot of these species I'm really passionate about that I really want to teach people about that are imperiled. And every single year, there is less and less and less of them. So I took a break from my studies because I was like, I can use the platform of YouTube now to kind of amplify a call to action a lot better than I could just to like be sitting at school for a long time. And of course, nothing against that. I do plan on going back and getting my degree eventually. But I study so much of this stuff. I'm so interested in it. I'm so excited about it. And I love to share it with people. So I kind of was like, I need to do this now, and I can always go back to school. But great question. A lot of it's self-taught. I guess, did I go to uni to learn all this stuff? No, I've been studying this my entire life. Let's see. Growing up, everyone called European hornets Japanese hornets. Of course, this is wrong. Japanese giant hornets, I assume, that is Vespa mandarinia japonica. So it is a subspecies of mandarinia, which is the Asian giant hornet. The European hornet is Vespa crabro. So yes, they're both in the same genus, making them related. They're both true hornets, but they are not the same. Let's see. I answered, will you have wasps as pets next? I answered that. Any winter plans? Trying to. So I have a few things on the slate. I can tell you one of them now. I'm planning at the end of this month, we're going to head down to South Florida, and we're hoping to find some spiders, some snakes, some bugs, some cool stuff. Maybe get some really cool content for you guys. Hopefully, get some really cool content for you guys. We're also going shark diving again, so maybe we'll get some cool shark activity and stuff like that. Really excited. That'll be a good trip. The trip after that is taking place in January. I don't know how many videos I'll be able to get there. Probably not many, but they'll be really cool, really different from our normal stuff. So I'm excited for you all to see that, but I'm not going to tell you where I'm going yet. Do you think Coyote Peterson acts or does it really hurt? I was stung by a normal wasp and wanted to die. Of course, pain is on a varying scale for people. In my opinion, I think that, you know, it would be a different story if somebody was like, if he was blindfolded and somebody was stinging him in a random part on his body and he didn't know when it was going to happen or where it was going to come from, or maybe even whatever species it was going to be. I think that surprise plays a much bigger factor in the pain of stings. When you're like watching it, you're going 3, 2, 1, oh, and you know it's gonna hurt, and you can almost kind of like mentally prepare yourself and brace yourself because you're not really doing any damage. If you were like digging a nail into your skin, I feel like you would be a lot more like, ah, stop, stop, stop. But for me, when I'm doing a sting, I'm like, okay, I know it's gonna hurt. I kind of have an idea based off of everything else I've been stung by. So when you're prepared for it, yeah, like I don't think anybody would be rolling around and screaming and frothing at the mouth and spitting and punching the ground. I think that that's a complete over exaggeration. A lot of people say, oh, well, he just has a low pain tolerance. You have a high pain tolerance. I really don't have any kind of special pain tolerance at all. I am average across the board. So I would say he hams it up, definitely, in my opinion. And from everything I've seen, he definitely hams it up, and it's worked. I mean, his videos are super popular. His channel became super popular, doing all that type of thing. Whereas I was doing this type of stuff within that same kind of time frame, and the interaction was a lot less because I want to kind of shoot straight by you all and teach you that these aren't like super scary monsters, that they're not out to get you. But great question. I do think he exaggerates. However, I think it would be interesting to see people's reactions, even my reactions. Like if I got stung by a bullet ant, like it crawled up my pants and I didn't even know it was there, I'd probably jump 10 feet in the air and I'd be screaming and hollering because you don't know what's happening. You don't know what stung you, what got you. So surprise plays a huge element. So when you're pinning it to your skin, I don't think, I mean, that's my thing. I'm searching for something that will do that, that will make you just lose all autonomy of your body. If you can't stay in control, that's a lot of pain. And so far, there's nothing I've been stung by. Bullet ant, tarantula hawk, cow killer, Vespa tropica, even that giant hornet species. Nothing I've been stung by that's made me have to roll around and do any of that. Your videos are incredibly informative and entertaining. Which was your favorite, and what insect is on your list to do in the future? Great question. I have a few like top tier videos that I really enjoyed filming. Some of my favorites would be the wombat rescue in Australia. We came across a wombat mother who had been hit by a car, but the joey was still alive. So we actually had to wrap it up and we had to call a rehabber, and she couldn't get to us for like 6 hours. And we found the baby at like 5 in the morning or something like that. So I just stayed up with this baby wombat, wrapped it in like a pillowcase. It was so cool. The echidna video, also from Australia, that's been one of my favorite animals since I was a kid. So I was really interested in finding that. And when I did find that, I was just over the moon. Some other videos that are some of my favorites. It's a lot of like things that like I personally really enjoyed finding, like the alligator snapping turtle video that we released last summer, the hellbender video that we released last fall. Those giant salamanders, like stuff that I've like only read about in books and I've never seen in the wild. Those types of videos are always really special for me. As far as sting videos go, I really enjoyed the bullet ant sting video just because it's like that's a big iconic species of ant. That's actually my favorite species of ant. So it was really cool seeing those in the wild for the first time, after reading about them online and in books and in documentaries and things. So those are my favorite types of videos where I like get to go out and see, this stuff that I only was able to ever read about. So those are great. What insect is on my list to do in the future? I would love to, uh, let me think, my top insect targets. I would love to get out to like Southeast Asia and find like some giant stag beetle species like in the wild, really any large like stag beetle or rhinoceros beetle species. I love finding those in the wild. Not technically an insect, but like Scolopendra galapagoensis, like one of the really huge centipedes. I think that would be so cool to see in the wild as well. Um, those are probably my answers for that. I can't believe I made it. I love your videos. Thank you. Let's see. I'm losing my place. Looking forward to the shark stuff. Stay safe. Thank you. How old am I? I'm in my early 20s, and that's all y'all are going to get. Um, 8 million SHU extraction. I've seen someone cry from jalapeno pain. Interesting. Yeah, pain can vary quite a lot. Hammer the like button, everybody. Yes. What's the worst reaction you have had? Yeah, probably Black Widow again. That was really, really painful. Do you think a big centipede is even more painful than an Asian giant hornet? Potentially, but here's the kicker is that giant hornets are specifically adapted for their stingers to elicit pain in mammals. Like we as mammals are hardwired exactly the same as everything that's trying to break into their nest and eat their larvae. So there's a potential. I mean, an Asian giant hornet is a gigantic insect, whereas a centipede's venom's first kind of use is procurement of prey and digestion of prey. So I don't think that necessarily any large centipede is more painful than an Asian giant hornet. But there's definitely the potential there because some of those large centipedes, I mean, they're injecting a lot of venom at one time and could definitely rival the pain or surpass the pain of a giant hornet. But it, once again, totally depends on species, depends on size, depends on a whole number of factors. Once a big centipede fell off a tree onto my shoulders. Luckily, it didn't bite me. They're really not likely to bite unless you like, grab them or pick them up. If they just kind of fall onto you, they'll just kind of figure out where they're going and get on the road. Big fan. You inspired me to get back out there before it got too cold, just to find some spiders again. You and Spencer are my favorite YouTubers, and I've only been watching for 3 months. I'm glad to hear it. Spencer's a great guy, good buddy of mine. We both try and put out some really interesting and unique information content. So I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Where do you attribute your education, school, or otherwise? A lot of it, like I said, is just kind of this has been a fascination for me since I was a young kid. So throughout school, throughout my entire childhood, I was always just like reading books and watching documentaries, and I also kept a lot of animals, so I'd have to research how to take care of them, what they eat, where they live, how to best kind of set them up. So it's just been kind of a culminative uh, 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 amalgam of information that's come in from everywhere. So it's just kind of like if I heard it, I remembered it, and it's been trapped in my head for the past however many years it's been in there. So, of course, I do have some education at college, but like I said, I don't have my degree yet. I took a pause on that to do Jack's World of Wildlife. So a lot of it's self-taught. I mean, I read research papers. I mean, I'm constantly researching animal behavior and care and all that stuff because a lot of times when I'm out filming, I'm in the middle of the jungle. We have no service. We have no way to make sure that we're saying the right thing. So before a lot of my trips, I just cram and I study everything I'm hoping to find, so that when we get out there, I can create a video out of it. Because I'm not going to lug around a bunch of field guides and stuff to flip through. Okay, let me see. What's an interesting fact about these creatures? Like I've got to know it. So it's just kind of everywhere. School is everywhere. You learn a lot from just being out and finding stuff and learning about it. And once you get to a certain point, a lot of stuff seems kind of, oh, okay, this animal is pretty similar to this animal that's found in this country or this region. They fill the same kind of roles in the ecosystem. So, I know what this one does, so I very likely know what this one does as well. So a lot of it kind of transfers over and kind of feeds into itself. So everything is school. Do you see yourself having a colony of executioner wasps? That would be really, really cool. But I think it would be hard for me to get a hold of executioner wasps just because they're not native to my state. There is technically some reports of executioner wasps in South Texas. However, I think it's much likelier that they are Polistes major, the horse's paper wasp. Um, and they are like, I mean, the southern tip of Texas is 10 plus hours away from where I live, so it would be very difficult for me to culture a colony of that particular species. Have you watched Kings of Pain? If so, what do you think about them guys? They tried it all. They definitely have done a lot more than I personally would do. I'm actually personal friends with Rob Oliva, Caveman Rob. I'm also pals with Adam Thorne as well. I do know both of those guys, of course, through social media. So I do know them. I think they do some great stuff. But like I said, they do a lot of things that I wouldn't do because their show is more like ranking the pain of certain things, whereas my show is kind of more like myth busting, like almost like response videos to kind of some of Coyote's content, where it's been like, Coyote says it's like this, and he makes people really afraid because they're like, oh my gosh, that was so crazy. He was just like rolling around and foaming at the mouth, and I'm like, hold on, like that's not really what happens. Here's what actually happens in this capacity. But like I said, great guys. I'm friends with them both, and I think they do some good work, and better than me, right? Any recommendation for entomology books that are more scientific and less this cool insect does this and this cool bug does that? Let me think. I'm like trying to see if I can look far enough at my bookshelf here. There's actually a lot of good, kind of almost like pseudo textbook style insect books. It's really just kind of like depends on what types of insects you're interested in. Um, but I want to say that there's one book that's called like insects, like the class Hexapoda, or like insects, like something like that, where it's this big thick green book. I think it's got a katydid on the front. That one's a great resource. It's very in depth. um but it just kind of like, I would suggest, if you're interested in like finding some good entomological literature, going to like a Barnes and Noble or even a Half Price Books and going to the nonfiction section and kind of browsing through the insect books. There's so much literature about insects that you could very realistically find something that is exactly what you're looking for. I'm sorry I don't have an exact reference, but like I said, there's so many bugs, so it kind of depends on what you want to learn about. If it's beetles, if it's wasps, if it's ants, if it's whatever. Hi, Jack. I watch all of your videos. Wow, that's a lot of videos. And I have learned so much useful information that I use every single day. I'm so glad to hear it. That's what I'm here for. Let's see. Have you tried cannabis for pain mitigation? I have not, although I assume it would probably work fine. So if you weren't doing this, what other career path do you think you would have chosen? Well, I'm a teacher at heart. So my original plan was to go to school and get my degree in biology or entomology or yada, 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 and get a teaching degree and become a teacher. Probably on the collegiate level. That's what I would be doing. I would be a teacher in some capacity. Peace. Appreciate it. Thanks for your answer. Enjoying teaching of these things. Are you planning to take a sting from the Irukandji jellyfish? Not at the moment. It's very hard to like once again organize these like invertebrate sting videos, and as well like what's the limit on, so jellyfish, right? they have tentacles that they use to sting and ensnare their prey. These tentacles are lined with what are called nematocysts, which are these stinging cells. So basically, think about it on a microscopic level, tiny little barbs that come off that have a little pocket of venom that they inject. So it's like, do you take a tiny little section of a tentacle and push it on? Do you stick the whole jellyfish on there? It's hard to kind of figure out. And some of those more toxic species of jellyfish, more painful species of jellyfish, can, of course, if enough of those nematocysts sting you, inject a really dangerous amount of venom. So it's very hard to kind of like properly test, excuse me, test a jellyfish sting. Have you ever been to the A&M entomology insect collection? I actually have. And I have a lot of buddies who have actually sent a lot of specimens up there. I've helped collect some specimens to be sent up there as well. They've got a great insect collection. I actually went and toured A&M when I was starting my college process because I was thinking about majoring in entomology down there. They've got a great entomological program. Do you have another job or just YouTube? I also own my own business in Texas, and I breed dart frogs, I breed fruit flies, and I also custom make and install vivariums, which are those bioactive enclosures. So that's my other job on top of YouTube. I would love to just do YouTube full time, but it's very hard to get that making enough money to do that because it's very expensive. Do you know anything about thrips that bite? Not much. The kind of little no-see-ums and little stuff are a group of insects I really don't specialize all that much on. But if you're interested, I'm sure there's a book about it. I'm from Spain. Best regards. Thank you very much. What is your favorite furry animal? I assume mammal. My favorite mammal, furry mammal. I love platypus. I love echidnas. The monotremes are a really interesting group. Of course, I have a soft spot in my heart for wombats after I rescued that wombat. I love bats. I love great apes, specifically orangutans and gorillas. I like a lot of furry animals. I wish my YouTube liked more furry animals because every single furry animal video I've put out, people don't seem to care. They just want to watch me get stung and bitten by insects. Where did my questions go? I don't know, but drop them again, and I will answer them if for some reason the chat dropped them. Jack, I really enjoy your videos. Do you keep any insects or other creatures as pets? If you do, you should give us a tour. Like I said, I do have some spiders. I have some frogs. I also forgot to mention that I do raise beetles on occasion. So I've got like a lot of like beetle larvae, but they just sit in wood flake soil until they metamorphose into adult beetles. So um, they don't really do anything. It'd be kind of a boring tour. It'd be like, I've got a jar of dirt. Not too entertaining. But I do have a few pets. I did a frog room tour. It was probably 2 years ago now. And I went through and I showed all of my vivariums and my frogs that I had at the time. I've since kind of started to downsize a lot of stuff because I've been traveling more, so it's harder to keep up with the frogs. So I'm working on phasing out a lot of my captive animals. How hard would it be for a normal person to distinguish an executioner wasp from a horse's paper wasp? Extremely difficult. They are very, very, very similar, and sometimes they can be almost indistinguishable unless you're like looking at them like under a microscope and stuff. They're very, very similar wasps, and they can easily be confused. Very similar color scheme. The executioner wasp does get a little bit bigger, but the horse's paper wasp is also a very large wasp. So it would be very difficult to distinguish. I started collecting and pinning insects this summer. And thanks to you, wasps have become my favorite targets. I was surprised to see how many different species there are. I've seen at least 30 near me. For every 30 that you see, there's probably another 100. There's so many wasps: parasitic wasps, cuckoo wasps, social wasps, burrowing wasps, solitary wasps, flightless wasps. I mean, there's so many wasps, and they come in so many different shapes and sizes and colors. And easily one of the most engaging and interesting pinning targets because you can create some really beautiful displays just targeting wasps. So that's really cool to hear. Best of luck collecting and pinning those wasps. I have a similar question to the entomology thing. Know any good true spider books? I can't find anything on just good old true spiders. I actually don't know. I don't have a single book on spiders. I'm sorry. Um, I would suggest the same thing. Checking out bookstores, looking for content that that is kind of specific to what you're hoping to find. As far as spiders go, you'd probably have to find like an arachnid encompassing book, which would include like megalomorphs, like tarantulas and funnel webs and things like that, as well as like scorpions and whip scorpions and stuff. I think it'd be very hard to find just a true spiders book, but I could be wrong. Howdy there, Mr. Jack. Hi, mate. How are you doing? Hello, everybody who's just starting to trickle in. What's the worst bite you've had? I mentioned a little bit earlier. Definitely Black Widow. That was really bad. Favorite spider? Oh, man, that's a good one. Favorite spider? I really love red widows. Some of the most beautiful spiders in the world, in my opinion. I also love a nice, beautiful Mediterranean widow, Latrodectus tridecim guchatus. They've got all those beautiful spots. Um, and I really do enjoy like the six-eyed sand spiders, the Sydney funnel web. I like a lot of those like really toxic, really cool species of spiders. Great question. Very hard to answer. Got any role models slash people you look up to? As a kid, I watched a lot of Zaboomafoo. So the Kratt brothers, of course, a huge inspiration. I also watched a lot of David Attenborough documentaries. He's a huge influence on why I kind of do a lot of what I do. Of course, Steve Irwin, may he rest in peace. And then Jeff Corwin as well were a lot of like the big inspirations, role models, and people that I took some inspiration from in the creation of my channel and presentation style. A great question. I found some random scarab larvae. I don't know how to identify. I'm keeping them to see what happens. Yeah, happens to the best of us. Scarab larvae can be very hard to identify. They all kind of start to look the same. And then it just kind of boils down to where you found them, what time of year you found them. And that can help kind of narrow it down. Do you target a certain bug or animal that you're looking for and base your travels off of that? Or do you set out on a journey into places that have a broad spectrum of wildlife and see what you can find? Amazing question. Kind of a little bit of both. It really depends. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, I know I need this video, so I'm going to go to where I can hopefully get that video filmed, and then whatever else we find, great. And sometimes it is like, okay, we don't really know what we're looking for quite yet, so let's get out to this amazing ecosystem that's got so much stuff, and we'll just kind of roll the dice and see what we come across. So it really depends on what time of year it is, where we're going. But we do kind of a hybrid of those two things where we just kind of, throw a dart at the map sometimes. And then other times it's very specific. Like when we went to Costa Rica earlier this year, I was like, I need executioner wasp sting, and everything else is just kind of a bonus. And so that's kind of what we did, and we were hoping to find more than what we did find. So it was a little disappointing, but we got what we needed from going down there. So it can definitely help to have some clear targets, but also just kind of like buzzing around, see what you find. But that's a great question. Thanks so much for answering all my questions and for all the time you give to educate us through YouTube. Thank you very much. Do you have pets? Yes, I do. I have some spiders. I have some frogs. I have some beetles. Has there been any recordings of people getting stung by the Japanese yellow hornet? I'm sure there have. Any wasp anywhere around people has stung people for sure. On a scale of 1 to 100, how painful was the black widow bite? I'm going to assume that you're asking about like the effects, because the initial bite is just kind of like a pinch and then it just feels kind of sore. The actual bite, so after the bite, about 3 or 4 hours after the initial bite is when the pain started, and the pain didn't let up for about 11 hours from that starting point. As far as that pain goes, it wasn't like, it's hard to explain. So with the stings, like it stings really bad, and then after 15 minutes, it's starting to like dissipate, which you've seen from some of my videos. With the Black Widow bite, it was just like the main thing that was so excruciating was that it was a high level pain, like 7, 8, up there. but there was no, it wasn't like, if it was like 15 minutes, I was like, "Oh, I could get through that." If it was 30 minutes, if it was an hour, I would be like, yeah, okay, I might even do that again. But 11 hours of just like excruciating body aches and just like really, really gnarly pain with no end in sight is just like horrible. And it's so discouraging too, because you're like, please let it be over. And there's just kind of nothing you can do. So on a scale of 1 to 100, I would say easily a 75, 80, just from duration alone. I mean, it's just really, really bad. But like I said, it's not like you're like begging for somebody to shoot you or put you down or anything. Like it's not quite to that level, but it is miserable. It's the worst experience I've ever gone through in my life. Worse than like a nasty sickness or something like that. What bite do you think that you might need to do but dread doing the most? That's a great question. Probably giant centipede. I don't want to do it, but I might do that. Because I'm actually really interested in the Asian giant hornet. Like I would be like excited to try that because I've done some other species and I feel like that'll be the most painful like wasp sting. Like I don't believe Coyote when he says that Carnifex is more painful because it just feels like a regular paper wasp. And the Asian giant hornet is like over 2 inches long. There's no way that a paper wasp beats that. Like I just can't imagine. So I think giant centipede is the one I don't want to do the most, which is why I haven't done it yet. Um, oh, great! Spiders of North America by Richard Bradley is a really good guide to whoever was asking about it. Thank you so much. So that would be great for North American. Oh, somebody retracted their message. I was about to read that. I have to sleep, but this is more exciting. Sorry to mess up your sleep schedule. Is there any species, insect or otherwise, that you aspire to interact with but just haven't had the chance yet? Yeah, the Japanese giant hornet. Um, I would love to find like a green anaconda in the wild or an aquatic coral snake. Those would be big targets for like an Amazon trip. Also, Dinoponera, which is this really big species of ant, one of the largest ant species in the world, if not the largest, Dinoponera uh, gigantea. That is a gigantic stinging ant, and that would be a really interesting sting test. They're so primitive they do not have queens and they're like that big. I would love to see Dino Ponder in the wild. Other than that, um, lots of snakes that I'd like to see, like a collet snake from Australia, a thorny devil from Australia would be really, really cool. Um, tons of stuff, insect and vertebrate wise that I would love to see in the wild. Like so much stuff. Thinking about ordering a spider again. Got any info on venom of a wandering spider that's not Phonutria? So like a tenid, like Tenidae, the family, like what species? If it's not Phonutria, and sometimes even if it is Phonutria, it'll be like an uncomfortable bite, but it won't cause any issue. Like even like Phonutria, like Boliviensis or Nigraventor or some of the other species in Central America, like it's not likely to cause like priapism or like severely medically significant uh kind of reactions or symptoms. So it really depends on what it is. As far as I'm understanding, a wandering spider that's not Phonutria, I would of course, try and avoid a bite, but it shouldn't be like on the same level of seriousness. Of the wingless. Sorry. I'm about to skip one. Hey, Jack, I live in Austin and I've seen these half black, half yellow hornets flying around my neighborhoods and was wondering what you would call those. Sounds like Vespula, so a yellow jacket species is what that sounds like to me. So it could be eastern yellow jacket or southern yellow jacket, but it could also be one of the species of umbrella paper wasps that kind of come in that yellow brown kind of color pattern. But it's hard to say. Like I said, there's a lot of wasps, so could be any number of wasps. Of the wingless wasps you've been stung by, which hurt more, the velvet ant or the blue bottle wasp or ant? Honestly, this most recent calcular velvet ant sting that occidentalis, that common eastern velvet ant, that was really painful. So I would give the cake to eastern velvet ant, because that was pretty nasty. Golden paper wasp or yellow paper wasp? Which do you get stung by? Well, I'll do whichever. Why isn't everyone fascinated with the beauty and diversity of nature? Thoughts? This is a great question. And it's one that I don't even think I could answer because I'm biased and I am completely fascinated by nature, completely fascinated by the natural world. And I think that it's difficult to wrap our minds around people who don't share this fascination or connection with the natural world. And I think a lot of it has to do with connection. Uh, we kind of live in our own bubbles and we think, oh, we've evolved past the point of needing to be connected to nature, of needing to care about the world around us. Everybody's afraid of bugs, spiders, snakes. They just the second the tiniest little insect that gets into their homes, they freak out, they spray poison. I don't understand. I think it comes from a disconnect. We feel like we're separate from nature. We meaning humanity, human beings, Homo sapiens. They feel like, you know, it's not worth it to connect with nature. They don't feel like they need it. They're like, oh, we've grown past it. And I think it comes from it's just It's just an ignorant stance. They just don't really understand that we still do heavily rely on nature for a balance of things. Every system here on the planet right now is part of a life system that is establishing and maintaining the life force and livability of the planet. Like without our Great Barrier Reefs, without our wetland ecosystems, without our massive rainforests. I mean, if you remove any of these single variables from the equation, you can have multi-system collapse and life on Earth could end as we know it. So I don't understand why people aren't fascinated with the beauty and diversity of nature. I think that that's the most beautiful thing in the world that you could be fascinated by. So I can't answer that because I don't understand those people at all. My goal is to help convert as many of those people as possible, help them to look closer and take a deeper dive um, into these types of questions and ways of thinking and ways of appreciating the world around you, because it is just crazy how much is going on that the average person just has no idea about. Can you let a giant centipede bite as long as the widow did? I'd really prefer not to, but we'll see how that giant centipede bite goes. Which animal or insect do you dislike? Great question. I get a lot of flack. I'm not the biggest dog person, I guess. I don't like for dogs to jump up on me and slobber on me and stuff. They're like, you like snakes and bugs and stuff. I'm like, yeah, they're natural, they exist in the wild. And then, they've got a French bulldog or something that's choking on its soft palate because they've bred it to just smush down into a ball. Sorry for all my dog people. I would say dogs probably bother me a lot. I don't feel like, at least in America, people don't put a lot of stock into taking care of their dogs really well or training them really well, which also bothers me because I feel bad for them as animals. They're just kind of accessories to a lot of people, and I don't feel like they get the respect that they deserve. Other animals that I don't like, I really have a hard time with long cylindrical hagfish or like Sicilians, things that just kind of writhe. I don't know, they just kind of gross me out. And you can tell, in my Amphiuma video that we filmed I feel like it was last summer. The whole time I'm just kind of going "Whoa, this thing is gross. It's gross." Like, I don't know what it is. Obviously, I don't care for ticks and stuff like that, but you know, those are animals that I'm like, I could do without. I could do without it. I like cats, but only indoor cats because outdoor cats cause a lot of issue. I don't like to be especially in my own home. I don't want to be harassed by the animals. Like a snake, in a cage, I'm I can take it out if I want to. Like my ants, I just like to watch them. Like a cat, it's just hey, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, nothing. I just been laying around all day. I'm like, cool, you have fun in there. And they'll be like, yeah, you go in the bedroom, work on some stuff. I'll be out here if you need me. I kind of like that. It's chill. It's not just Oh, great. Fido chewed up all my stuff while I was gone, peed all over the floor and pooped because there was a thunderstorm and yada, yada, yada. But I digress. Those are animals. I don't really dislike any insects. I mean, even like mosquitoes and stuff, I'm just kind of like, yeah, they can be a little annoying, but they're so important for like pollination, for like, food for other animals and stuff. I'm just kind of like, okay, I'll put up with it, you know? um, oh, 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 okay. Sorry. It keeps like the chat keeps like trying to jump down to like when it uploads. Jack, I'm here to plug my request to see if you'll take a sting from a giant water bug. If I find one, sure thing. We didn't run across any. Have you ever taken a steatota bite? I see people posting steatota in ID groups all the time, asking if they're true widows. And I'd like to be able to say it's milder than latrodectus. Yeah, if I can find one, for some reason they're not like super common around me. Like we get a lot of like cobweb spiders and then just like widow spiders. But if we can find a good sized steatota, I know like in the UK it's like really common for people to be like, oh yeah, like it's really bad if you get bitten by a false widow. Like it's going to be really really gnarly. But from everything we can see like chemically going on, it should not be on the same level. But I mean, it's a lot of the same types of toxins. I mean, they're all in the same family. So we'll see. I have a feeling it'll be closer to like on a bad day, closer to like the brown widow envenomation. What location on Earth do you think has the craziest insects? Well, insects are usually crazier in kind of tropical spaces. So, like Central South America has some wild stuff. Asia, Africa have some really, really cool stuff. And then Australia has some bizarre stuff that's been cut off from the rest of the world. So it's a really hard question. There's some crazy insects out there. But I would say I would just kind of say, yeah, like any kind of tropical areas, I would put money on that have the craziest insect, or like kind of cut off areas like islands or things like Australia, like I guess is technically an island, where you have these animals that have been kind of isolated and you see a lot of weird stuff that doesn't really pop up anywhere else, like Madagascar or New Caledonia or Papua New Guinea. Like you have these little places that are kind of cut off from the rest of the world that get these really, really interesting, weird stuff show up. Great question. Hi, I'm located in Nebraska. I've had a dark widow in my apartment and my bathroom for the past month. I don't see a red hourglass on its abdomen though. Do you know what spider it is? Love your vids. Sounds like maybe another thuritid. So it's in the same family, but it's not as toxic. If there's no hourglass at all, it's probably like a cobweb spider, maybe a false widow. And they can easily be removed, like just kind of catching them in a container and just kind of tossing them outside. But they're just kind of feeding on insects that come in. As long as you see it and it's like in a web, it's not really going to move anywhere. It's not like nomadic. It's not like crawling into your clothes or your shoes or anything. Do you study on the evolutions of insects? I do. It's a really interesting topic for me. Helps you kind of understand which groups of insects are like more closely related to each other, and you can kind of see like the diversification of species as they kind of spread out throughout the world. So yeah, it is something that I say. What are the giant black bees you see every now and then? Sounds like I feel like it's Xylotrupes. I feel like is the genus, like bumblebees. Those are our native bees. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, save the bees, save the bees." um, Spencer, I just saw that you're in the live. Welcome. Spencer from my wild backyard is here, folks. I thought you're supposed to be editing, Spencer. Anyway, sorry. The giant black bees, bumblebees. So a lot of people think European honeybees. They're like, oh, save the bees, make bee houses, start honey farms and yada yada yada. European honeybees are imported. They're not native, and they outcompete a lot of our native bee species. So those bumblebees are native, like carpenter bees, bumblebees. They're all those larger bees, and they're more solitary. So those are good native bees. So if you see one of those, you say, "Thank you, bee. I love you so much. I hope we save you." Not European honeybees that need no help from us at all because we culture them by the millions and millions and millions. I'm from the UK. I'm sure I got bit by a false widow. I had an itchy finger and it swelled up like a blood blister, and then there was a little hole. Does that sound like a false widow bite to you? Not really, but it could have been. It could have been like a bacterial reaction that happened after the fact. The venom of the Steatota, like Latrodectus, should be mostly like neurotoxic. Shouldn't have a lot of hemotoxic properties, which would cause a blister or something like that. But if you were kind of scratching at it, you could have introduced bacteria, which then could have caused an issue where a blister might have formed. But like I said, it could have been, could have been. If you were sure it was a spider bite, there's always a chance. Favorite U.S. venomous snake? Mine is the pygmy rattlesnake. Great choice. For me, that's a good one. I really, really like. I had a great time finding my eastern diamondback. I think that's one of the most beautiful venomous snakes that we have here in the United States. If you can get a nice like yellow, deep contrast. Uh, uh, Eastern diamondback. I also love coral snakes, so Texas coral, Eastern coral, or the western the desert coral snake species from Arizona. Um, those would probably be my answers. What did hornets evolve from? Well, it's not necessarily that they evolved from anything. Hornets, wasps, bees, and ants are all in the same order, Hymenoptera. So these insects are an ancient group of insects that predate the dinosaurs, and they just started milling around. They formed social bonds. Some of them fly, some of them didn't, and then throughout time, they just kind of like kept going with that. So it's hard to answer where did they exactly evolve from because they're an entire group of insects. Still got a few ideas for myths to bust. I really want to see yellow sac spider bite. Read a lot about the effects such as necrotic lesions or no symptoms at all. Great suggestion. We were hoping to find a yellow sac spider, like a lynx spider, because a lot of people, for some reason, think that they're super toxic or dangerous, and they're not. So those are on our list. It's just once again a matter of finding that stuff. In your opinion, what insect is the most aesthetically pleasing? Great question. I really think that such a good question. I think that there's a lot of wasps. There's a lot of beetles that kind of fit this the best. Just like color, shape, like patterning. Like there's some beautiful insects in the world. It's such a hard question to answer. As far as aesthetically pleasing goes, maybe like some of the Chrysina, like the really beautiful jewel scarabs, or maybe like chlorian, like cricket wasps. They're just so elegant and like brilliant iridescent blue. I mean, it's hard to find insects that look much nicer than that. I love that iridescent structural coloration. I think definitely makes the best aesthetically pleasing insect. Jack is live, so here we're down to Spencer. Spencer arrived. Oh, he says I'm on the phone with Zach right now. He says hello. Tell Zach I said hello and that y'all are interrupting my live stream. Let's see here. I have 4 cats. I would die for them. I really enjoy cats. I really like them. 110% agree about dogs. Most of them are fine though, except for pit bulls. They should be banned. I know it's a bit of like a sensitive topic for people, but dog breeds exist because they're selectively bred for specific things. So I do think that these animals, if trained properly, of course, can be friendly, good, nice, sophisticated dogs. The problem is, I feel like 80% of the time people do not take the time to train their dogs, and then they can be any dog. Save some of the smaller ones can be dangerous to leave with kids, with other animals, yada yada yada. So train your dogs, please. I'm completely with you on the dog. See, I guess I'm just not a dog person. Maybe that's just what I am. What happens if a person is bitten by a funnel web spider? Depends on what funnel web spider you mean. So funnel webs are a larger group of spiders. There are plenty of other funnel webs outside of the Sydney funnel web spider. A lot of them would be pretty gnarly to be bitten by. Sydney funnel web is a very toxic species, so you would need to get treatment for that pretty quickly. I believe that their venom it acts as a sodium gate channel modulator. So what it does is it starts to kind of create muscle rigidity. It really like affects you on a cellular level. which is not so good. Um, and it's theorized that because they have so many toxins in their venom that are like specifically targeted at defense against primates in particular, that they evolved such a potent venom to defend themselves against predation from human beings, the indigenous peoples that were in Australia, which is crazy. Which means that they might be perfectly adapted to laying out humans in particular, which is crazy to think about, because people all over the world eat large spiders like that. So they could have seen it. Oh, looks good. And then the ones that had a little bit of a more successful venom to defend themselves probably did well. Oh, people love your channel too, Spencer. Stealing my thunder. No, I'm kidding. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I get the sense you genuinely love animals and are mindful of putting them first. Then you get it, because that sense is correct. And I genuinely do love animals, and I am mindful about putting them first. Where's the cameraman? He is occupado right now. He's actually in Maine with his family, so he's not joining us today. Let's see. You also keep it real. My kids and I love your content. Thank you. Of course. That's what I try and do. I try and keep it real with you guys. Gotta hop off here. Just wanted to thank you for all your hard work and all the effort you put into your videos. Thank you so much. I'll keep doing that for you then. I'd love to own an owl or a bat. Would be really cool, but it's very, very difficult to kind of keep up with all the caging requirements, dietary requirements, yada, 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 of all those animals. Can I offer my Brachypelma for a bite? I'm not against taking a bite from a handful of species of tarantulas. Brachypelma is not an incredibly toxic species, so wouldn't be too much for me to do. But I would hate, if anything were to happen to your tarantula, if it was shipped, or if there was an accident with the bite of the sting. Not that happens regularly or often, but I think I'll let you hold on to your tarantula, and maybe if I come across one in the wild, we can test that out. One more question before I go. I was on a camping trip this past week in Tennessee and got some pictures of what I think is a southern trapdoor spider. Sounds like Umidia. So a lot of people don't realize that the United States actually has quite a lot of trapdoor spiders. We've actually filmed a few of them. If you go back 2 years or so, we found a male Umidia, which is a species of trapdoor spider, wandering, looking for females. He was mature. And then we also found a mature wafer lid trapdoor spider, which are like a red kind of tan species. And that was last year. So we actually do have quite a few trapdoor spider species here in the United States. I'd love to film more of them, but they're really hard to find because the males come out when they're mature, but the females can live in their burrows as long as they're alive, which can be many, many, many years. In fact, the longest lived arachnid was a trapdoor spider, and they lived I feel like they lived like 40 years or something like that. Like, they can live for a long time. Not necessarily these smaller species, but they can live for years and years and years, and they just sit in a tiny little burrow, with a quarter-sized little flap. And if you're not like scanning the forest floor for those tiny little circles, you're not gonna find it. But yeah, we have plenty of trapdoor spider species. I don't think that's a question, but sounds great. Yeah. It was a great addition. Thanks for all you do. Looking forward to your videos and comedic commentary. Thank you very much. Ever come here to Canada? I actually tried to film an episode in Canada back in 2019. I went up there for some whale watching. I was in Alaska and Canada. I actually only was able to get one full video from Alaska and Canada, and it was our baby bears video that came out in 2019. I filmed humpback whales while I was there. I filmed at a wildlife sanctuary, and then I also filmed out of Victoria, British Columbia, orca whales, killer whales. But the footage was kind of hard to pick through. It was from really far away. Yes, I was able to see them, but it didn't quite come out the way I was hoping. So I was like, I'll just sit on that footage and wait until I have the chance to get back up to Canada or Alaska and kind of round out those videos for you all to watch. It's a beautiful country. I would love to get to spend some more time up there, but it's not usually very high on my list because I target a lot of like snakes, a lot of insects. So when I go to Alaska or Canada, obviously my main targets are like mammals and stuff, birds, and that doesn't usually perform as well on the channel. So right now, when I have to really strategically kind of plan where I'm going and what types of content I'm trying to film to try and keep the channel, afloat and growing and funding itself. Canada is usually not very high up on the list, but I loved my time in Canada. It was a very beautiful place. If you're ever in Tennessee, do you think you'd have any interest in finding one and doing a video and potentially a bite video from one? Maybe. We have them here in Texas as well. Like I said, I filmed one of those Umidia a while back, but they're really, really cool. There's not a lot that's known about their venom composition. Obviously, I don't think it's anything like deadly, but it would be an interesting test. Carpenter bees, question mark. Is that a response to my previous bee rant? Yes, carpenter bees are great native species and might be what that gentleman was talking about or person was talking about. Oh man. So sorry guys. I'm gonna try and rush through these next few so I can like get down to the bottom because you guys are keeping me busy on this live stream, which is great. I like that. We got some biting horseflies up here in Canada. Yeah, I've had a few people request some horsefly bites, but it's all like mechanical damage. So they're not like injecting any like venom or anything. They're just like cutting you open. So I usually like shy away from those types of tests because it's just like, I could, cut myself open with like some pliers or something and it would be the same thing. And then you just have to worry about a cut or whatever. But yeah, it's always a potential video. Maybe people would like to see that. I'm sure they would. Anytime I get hurt, people like it. Did you study entomology at A&M? No, but I almost did. It was my top school that I was looking at. I actually ended up getting my basics rounded out at a community college. And then before I transferred to start working on more of my degree plan, I decided to do Jack's Rural Wildlife. Entomology they've got a great entomology department at Texas A&M. So that's where I was thinking about going. But I'm on academic leave while I'm doing Jack's Rural Wildlife. What's the most perceptive, seemingly intelligent insects you've interacted with? Insects. Honestly, Myrmecia, the bull ants from not Costa Rica, Australia, they're so crazy because they're just like watching you and they got their like antenna and they like look at you and so they're very like they seem very aware, very reactive. Insects in general usually aren't the most intelligent things I come across. Social wasps, they're like tracking you, watching you. I would say a lot of like hymenopterans are very like aware, like watching you, keeping an eye on you to make sure you don't try and like eat their larvae or anything. So I think I would say that as far as perceptive goes. I don't know that I would necessarily say that they're really intelligent or smart. There are some studies that show that wasps and bees do have a decent level of intelligence, like according to, like insect wise, like comparatively. But I said I was going to go through these questions fast. I would say like Myrmecia or like social wasps and stuff are very perceptive. Everything I've read on Steatota leads me to believe it's basically a milder latrotoxin. That's essentially the case. Yes. Have you ever stonked with a cronk lonk? I have no idea what that means, but maybe. I don't know. That's a good shot. How about a giant horsefly bite? We get them in the UK and they are horrid. I love how your channel has grown. Like I said, maybe horsefly bite. Thanks so much. I'm glad that you guys are watching over in the UK. What is the most boring part of the day for you? The day I'm not, time of the day I'm not doing anything. Sometimes I like to just sit back and relax, but when I'm especially like, oh, I need to get something filmed, I need to get something edited, I need to get something yada, yada, yada. I hate when I'm just having to like wait around. But honestly, like my day-to-day life is pretty good. Like I'm either out in the field or I'm here working or I'm out on like service calls and stuff like that. So There's not much that I get too bored with. I guess if I've been watching TV for too long, sometimes I'm like, man, I'm bored. But it's never like, oh, I'm so bored. I need to find something to do. I've always got something to do. Moths, maybe, is that in reference to Canada? I'm not sure. It's just a single comment. Moths, maybe. Yep, there's plenty of moths in Canada. All across North America, we've got some really cool Saturnid moths. I really like the silk moths. Screw yellow sac spiders and their love for the inside of cars. I assume there's a story there probably that you had a yellow sac spider in your car. What did you first specialize in? I first really became interested in like reptiles and amphibians. So like lizards, frogs. I got into snakes a little bit later as a kid. Like I was raised in the South. I heard a lot of just, oh, careful, don't go in the tall grass while you're going down to the creek to catch tadpoles. You know, there could be a cottonmouth in there and they'll get you. And it wasn't until I was like a teenager that I started encountering these things. And then I was like, oh, I've always loved animals. I've always loved wildlife, and I was kind of apprehensive about snakes. And then once I started to see them in the wild, venomous snakes even act in a way that I was like, oh, they're just animals. I thought they were supposed to be monsters and chase me and want to bite me and stuff. They just want to get away. So then I kind of had this kindling of interest in venomous snakes in particular. So I kind of first specialized in bugs, bugs I could find outside and things like that, and then frogs, lizards, and then eventually snakes and everything I do now. So I never really was like real too kind of focused in on one particular thing. Love your channel. Was wondering how you guys are able to do this full time. Do you have Patreon? So a lot of my channel is funded from my other business. We did make a good amount of money this year. We were able to kind of pay for a lot of the traveling that we did this year with the channel, but it's not quite like making full time money yet. I would really love to see it happen this coming year. Because that would be great if we didn't have to worry about money or anything, and we could just be like, "Hey, we want to film Sydney funnel web spiders. We can spend freaking it's like 2,000, 2,500, $3,000 a ticket to go to Australia." So thank you very much for the donation. Of course, you guys are able to donate on here if you feel so led. Do you have a Patreon? Absolutely, yes, I do. It is linked in every single one of my videos in the description, and also it's linked on my main homepage for my YouTube channel. Patreon is a great way. I'm really trying to create more content, exclusive content for the YouTube members and the patrons, because that would be a great way to kind of jumpstart the channel like next year. If even just like, you know, 1,000 subscribers, which we now have over 75,000, which is amazing and crazy. If 1,000 subscribers gave us like $2 or $3 a person per month, not even a week, per month, that's like, 50 cents a week, 75 cents a week. We could realistically kind of get wherever we need to go to film the stuff you guys want to see. We could be like, hey, we're going to go 4 days. We're going to go to Japan and we're going to get Asian giant hornet because we can just afford to do that. Few days out there, fly back, boom, video's done. But of course, we are growing. We grew a lot this year. But like I said, I would love to get it to that full-time spot because as of right now, my other business does fund this one quite a lot. So a lot of my free time, a lot of my free money goes into this and bills. So I'm trying really hard to grow this. Great question. Spencer says, we are honored to interrupt your live stream. And then Zach says, I'm interrupting a live stream. You are interrupting leg day. We are not the same. Very interesting. I've heard and known people that have gotten bitten by wheel bugs. How would you rank the pain on a scale of 1 to 10? It was pretty gnarly, and there was a lot of necrosis as well because those digestive juices are built to break down tissue and stuff like that. Like, so if you go back and watch that video, you can see like almost off the bat, like I still have a scar from that. You probably can't see because the resolution on this camera is not very good. But I still have a scar from that, and it broke down. There's a lot of scar tissue in there, and it was fairly painful. On a scale of 1 to 10, if I was saying like Black Widow was like 8 or 9, I would say Wheelbug was like 6.5. I mean, it was but it's a very short lived. I mean, it really hurts and then it's gone. And then you like suffer with that like weird crater that forms in your skin from the necrosis. So it was really, really interesting. Oh, Spencer says we are discussing Red Widow plans. Oh, Spencer, if you don't know, he's headed down to Florida before me. So I'm going at the end of the month. He's going like next week. We're both hoping to encounter the beautiful red widow. Like I said, one of my favorite species of spiders, which would be great. Ladrodectus bishopi, that's right. When will we see a hippopotamus on your channel? Well, um, excuse me. I would love to film hippopotamus in the wild. Of course, a very scary animal, very dangerous animal. But an Africa trip would be a dream. However, Africa is very, 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 very expensive to go to and do the things we would like to do there. And the problem is that a lot of that content would be, really heavily mammal focused, really heavily reptile focused. And as of right now, invertebrates are kind of king on the channel. So we would really be needing to bring in a lot more revenue to kind of afford an Africa trip. But I would love to film those animals. I have no reservations. That dude from Maine says cameraman is in Maine. Welcome. Thank you very much. That dude from Maine. Yes, his well, I guess it's TMI why he's up there, but yes, he has found himself in Maine, and poor him is having to drive all the way back down from Maine to Texas to then drive with me from Texas to Southern Florida. So he's going to be spending a lot of time in the car. Classic. Let's see. Would you take a bite from a I assume you mean six-eyed sand spider? I'll pee on it after if that helps. No, thank you. So six-eyed sand spider is a very large sacarid, which are related to things like brown recluse. However, they are much larger. So remember from the brown recluse bite videos, the dosage makes the poison. Like, oh, it's so small that even that dangerous sphingomyelinase D is not going to cause any issue because there's not enough of it. And this six-eyed sand spider, that's a different story. So you could see multi-system organ failure. You could see vast and serious levels of necrosis. Would not be nice. Would be a very gnarly and disgusting bite. Would love to film them in the wild, but very unlikely that I would take a bite. And their venom is fairly understudied as well because there's not really a lot of reports of them biting people because they live like underneath soil and are ambush hunters and would never ever come into a circumstance where they would bite somebody unless somebody like grabbed them and like tried to like squish them in their hands or something. So um, no, I would not do a bite from that. Any tips on wasp identification when out collecting? Honestly, uh, identifying afterwards is your best friend. If you can identify it as a wasp, if it looks cool, you want to add it to the collection, great. Put in a jar or a kill jar or something like that, and preserve it. Bring it home as you're pinning it. Then you can kind of go in because some of these wasps, might not even be able to distinguish between species without kind of putting them under a microscope or getting a really close look at them. Eli, hey, oh, Jack, how are you? I'm great. How are you, Eli? iNaturalist and Bug Guide. Bug Guide is good for learning families so you can ID faster in the wild. Yeah, great recommendations from Spencer. iNaturalist is really, really a good AI system. So you can take a picture of that insect and it'll show up what it thinks it is. And usually that's pretty accurate. If it's a clear picture, it can at least get it down to like family or genus for you. And then you can kind of go in and maybe somebody sees your upload and they're a wasp expert and they can be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what that is. Bug Guide is also great. I believe that's only restricted to North America though. So if you are in North America, that's a great resource to use as well. What would you keep as a pet? Northern hawk owl or spotted eagle owl? I don't know. Birds are a lot of work. My buddy Chandler, he's got I think it's a Eurasian eagle owl. They're really, really cool. If I had the space, eventually down the line with Jacksonville Wildlife, I'd love to like open a facility that's open to the public and have like a conservation focused kind of display of some really cool and unique animals from all over the world, and we would probably add birds of all sorts. So I don't know. I don't know which type of owl I would prefer to have more. Any owls are cool, but like I said, birds are a lot of work. I'm just across the way in Vancouver. Very cool. The female trapdoor spiders kill the males when they mate. Not always, but like I said, any mating situation. Well, I guess I said that in any of my videos, but any mating situation can lead to a predation event. But generally, even black widow spiders, generally after mating takes place, it's fine. The problem is the males approaching the females before mating, where he has to be able to, like, a lot of them will kind of drum on the webbing. So he's going, hey, I'm a male, you're a mature female, I can present you with reproductive fluids and information to make babies. And they'll kind of drum on that web. And you can see the female at first, she thinks that's prey. And then as she gets closer, she goes, oh, it's time to mate. Okay. So then she decides, okay, is she ready to mate? Then they will successfully mate. A lot of times the males just go on their way. Sometimes they'll hang around in the webs. In the case of like black widow spiders and stuff, it's not super common for them to like eat the males after mating. Of course, it can still happen, but generally the issue is eating the males before mating. And the males don't really live for very long after they mature in almost every single spider group. So it really doesn't matter if she eats him anyway because he's going to die soon. So if he mates and she eats him, he did his job. He completed his life. That's his main mission once he matures, is to mate. Favorite non-venomous U.S. snake? I got to go with racers. I'm guessing yours is some kind of king. Great guess. For me, favorite non-venomous snake. Well, I would say, like, for me, I love hognose snakes. And yes, technically they are mildly venomous, but typically, when talking about venomous snakes, we don't include those mildly venomous species. Love hognose snakes. Eastern hognoses are probably one of my favorite snakes of all time. As far as truly non-venomous, I'd have to go with like some of the Pherancia, like mud snakes. Oh, love mud snakes. Like there's few snakes that'll get me like so excited and jazzed up to find in the wild. So ironically, not a king. I like kings. I like coming across them. But I got to say that those like really niche, interesting, uh, prey specific species like Pherancia, like the mud snakes or rainbow snakes, and then heterodon, those hognose snakes. Those are probably my favorite. If you're interested in checking out wildlife in northern New Mexico, say you're on Santa Fe, I live in the Pecos Wilderness, I'd be more than happy to show you around. I might just have to take you up on that. I'd love to get further out west. West Texas has kind of lost a lot of charm for me, and I really want to get out to New Mexico, Arizona, really experience what the Sonoran Desert has to offer. But yeah, that would be a cool place to check out. I've actually never really spent much time in New Mexico, very limited amount of time. Is the Sydney funnel web one of the only spiders you'd never take a bite from? Appreciate all you do, Jack. It is definitely one that I would not take a bite from. There are a handful, like I said, like the six-eyed sand spider, or like Phoenutria fera, the Brazilian wandering spider. I wouldn't do a bite from that. Of course, there are other species. I don't want to do a lot of bites from the widow spiders and things like that. There's plenty of spiders I don't want to take a bite from. I don't know that there's any I would like to take a bite from. There's some that I may add to the channel because I think it's helpful to dispel myths about them. But yes, there are plenty of spiders I would not take a bite from. Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to like answer faster so I can get to all these. Okay, I used to live in East Texas. I was born in Terrell, but lived in East Texas most of my life. I have a story of my encounter with a skunk ape on my channel. If you ever want to watch it, I love cryptid stuff. That would be really cool. I have to check that out. The trapdoor spider must have been a male because it was on the exterior of a bathhouse later at night. If you want to see pictures, I'd be more than happy to send them to you. I'm sure it was a male. If it was out and active, wandering around, very unlikely for females to do that. Of course, they will do it every once in a while, but unlikely for them to crawl up on any types of surfaces or anything. Do you think there are significant intelligent differences between social and solitary wasps slash bees? Um, Potentially, just from like an evolutionary standpoint, like social wasps do have more that they have to kind of like think about. Like with a solitary wasp, they have to just like recognize what's food, where's food, and then what's predators and how to get away from it. So they don't have to quite get along with others others of their own species or figure out how to recognize certain things and things like that. So there could be a significant intelligent difference, but it's very hard to quantify that. So I would just be guessing. I would say potentially. I saw a Pacific folding trapdoor spider around here near Vancouver, BC. Is that something I should be concerned about in terms of a bite? Trapdoor spider bite is going to be painful, but that is like the bottom of the list of a spider that you would actually come across in a capacity where it would bite you. Like you would never run into it in a situation. It's not gonna like crawl into your shoes and like you put them on after leaving them outside and be like, ow, ow. Like maybe a male would do that, but uh, I wouldn't be concerned about actually getting into a situation where you would be bitten. Are you ever going to do a top 10 most painful sting video and a video on hobo spiders? Yes, I would like to do a kind of like sting index. I was kind of waiting to do the Asian giant hornet, the Japanese giant hornet, because I figured everybody would be like, well, what about the Japanese giant hornet? Like, you didn't try that one yet. Coyote did that one. So I was kind of waiting to do that to put into my sting index so I could like make it like complete or like working complete. As far as hobo spiders go, I would love to film a video on them. I just live outside of their range. So it's just a matter of if I found one, um, I could film a video on them. The problem is I'd want to do a spider bite test, but everyone I've heard about trying to make them bite them have been unsuccessful. So everybody's saying, "Oh, they're just as bad as a brown recluse or blah blah blah." Like, there's no way to verify that they were actually bitten by a hobo spider because everybody who's tried to get a hobo spider to bite them to prove that they're harmless hasn't been successful. So I don't know. We will see. Have you ever gotten lost in the woods and had to eat bugs to survive or use an animal bladder to carry water in? No, I really don't get lost all that often. I usually have a pretty good sense of direction in the woods, at least. I'm fairly useless, like in like city areas, urban areas. But no, I've never had to eat bugs to survive or use an animal bladder to carry water in. I'm sure your channel is going to grow and grow. Just please be careful out there. I will do that, and I hope we'll keep growing. Would you take a bite from a tarantula? Also, what is your favorite species of tarantula? Yes, I would. I've been thinking about taking a bite from a tarantula for a while now. I think it'd be an interesting video. My favorite species of tarantula is probably, I really, really like the Goliath bird-eating tarantulas. Like, they just always, I'm like, man, they're so big, they're so impressive, they're so cool. Always love those. Of course, like some of the more like Indian ornamental tarantulas, like the pokies, like are really pretty. Cobalt blue, really pretty. So if it's like really, really pretty, the earth tigers I also like. Those really interesting, like Asian group, maybe even African group of spiders. I really like old world tarantulas, but I've got to say, probably Goliath bird eating tarantula is cool. Straight up, what's the best moth? And don't play games with us on this. The best moth. I gotta say, Atlas moth, sick moth, so cool. Gotta love Atlas moths. Gotta love Cecropia moths. Honestly, Cecropia moths are some of those beautiful moths in the world. The lunar moths, moon moths are also really, really nice. That Actius genus, those are really, really pretty. I'm a Saturniid guy. You're not gonna catch me gushing over sphingids or noctuids or whatever else there even is. Like, I just love silk moths. I think they're so pretty. Jared says hi. I say hi back. Okay, I'm getting close. When can we see a grizzly bear attack and see the effects? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Some of these suggestions are cracking me up. Yeah, unlikely that I'll do a grizzly bear attack if I can help it. What kind of reptiles? What kind of reptiles you out lizards? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Please comment again. Maybe use a few more words so I know what you're asking me. Just out of curiosity, is there a horse's paper wasp behind you? You got me. I'm actually hoping to find some horse's paper wasps here in a few weeks when I go down to Florida. Death by snoo snoo. Uh-oh. That's a good Futurama reference. iNatural seems like cheating to me. I'm so used to a National Audubon book, internet searches, or using a microscope. Although the only things I identify are mushrooms. Um, yes, iNaturalist has made things so much easier. What about slugs? Do they carry parasites? They sure do. You shouldn't eat slugs. I don't know what you're asking me about here. I assume you're referring to my if I've ever been in the woods and had to eat slugs. Slugs can carry parasites because they will feed on a variety of animal feces. In fact, some people have died from eating slugs live, like raw, because they get a parasite called rat lungworm, which the slugs ingest from eating rat droppings. So, okay, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if you've been asked already, but what is your favorite couple of states to explore and find different creatures in? Great question. I love Texas. Texas is a great place to be. I've also had some great success in both Oklahoma and Louisiana. They're not too far away from me. And Florida, I would say, are my top four at the moment. But like I said, I haven't been able to get out west very much. I would love to check out some more western ecosystems. Um, and I would love to get further out east. I really enjoyed my time in Pennsylvania as well. But I've had my eyes on like the Carolinas or Tennessee, Smoky Mountains, Appalachia. I would like to spend a little bit more time out there in that classic Eastern United States forests and things like that. I'm in Tucson, awesome wildlife out here. I believe you. Love to get out to Arizona. There's been a few people who have died in Australia from eating slugs. Yes, again, parasites. Almost everything in Australia is dangerous, though that's true. But the slugs are giving people parasites, is what's happening. Really appreciate you reading my comments, Jack. You're one of my favorite wildlife channels. You've taught me so much. I'm so glad to hear it. That's what I'm here for. I'm a doctor. I had a patient who thought he was bit by a black widow, had an abscess. He said, "How do you know?" I said, "I watched Jackson Wildlife Black Widow bite video." Great to hear. Yeah, an abscess, very unlikely to be caused by a black widow bite. Um, Sounds like a bacterial infection, perhaps. Could be another spider bite that he had an adverse reaction to. But yeah, like I said, mostly neurotoxic venom in a black widow, if not exclusively. So, not really a chance of developing an abscess or blisters or something like that. Thanks for answering my question. You and Spencer are my favorite nature YouTubers. So glad to hear it. How many different species of spiders are in North America? I could not tell you. There are so many species of spiders. Yeah, I couldn't even give you an accurate guess because there's probably so many that are undescribed as well. There's a lot. Why don't you get bit by the giant Southwest desert centipede? Plain and simple. It sounds really awful, and I've been putting it off for a long time. I probably will take a bite eventually. It's a little cold now, but maybe next year. Maybe that'll be one of our big bites next year. Would you rather have a world dominated by wasps or panthers? Well, I feel like it would be a lot safer for us to be dominated by wasps than panthers. At least wasps have a good amount of natural predators, keep those populations in check. Panthers would be very difficult to deal with if you just had tons of them milling around. Um, we caught a really huge wolf spider a month ago. We were going to keep it as a pet, but after researching it more, I found out it was a male spider, so I released it to live its short life. Great. Yeah, they come out, they wander around for females, and they wouldn't be a very fun pet because they usually die pretty quickly after they mature. Why don't you get bit by the giant Southwest desert centipede? I answered this question. I answered this question. I answered this question. I'm planning on it eventually. It just seems like it's going to be really, really nasty, but I assume it's not going to be as bad as Coyote made it out to be. Yes. So Spencer commented, Scolopender Heroes is not as bad as it's been made out to be. Spencer did get bitten by a Scolopender Heroes when he came here to collab for Texas. You'll eventually see that video somewhere. But yeah, he was fine. His hand just swelled up. I don't know what you're referring to, but I believe you. Has there been a point in time where you genuinely thought your life was in danger? Okay, so I'll give you guys a little bit of a story time here. So, back in 2019, in January, no, February in 2019, I was spending some time in Thailand filming content. We were going out to film elephants. And I don't know if you know this, outside of like the zoo and like the circus, elephants can be extremely dangerous animals, even within these circumstances of being at the zoo and at the circus. They're very large, and they can be quite cantankerous. And we were trying to film these elephants at night, so we were on bikes, like little like moped motorcycle kind of bikes. So I was on one, and then my buddy David, if you've ever watched David's feed, he does some really cool snake stuff, snake videos. He was on a bike, and then my cameraman Gage was sitting behind him so he could like film. So they were on a bike together. So we were driving up and down. We were filming this one elephant, and it started to get a little annoyed with us. So we're like, okay, we'll back off. We'll go try and find another elephant to film. So we didn't find any. So we went back down the mountain. We had to go right past this elephant again, and we were trying to go fast so he would, not be annoyed. It was like a juvenile male. Well, I shouldn't say juvenile. He was an adult male, but he wasn't like quite like fully mature. Like he was maybe 10 years old, 12 years old, something like that. So he was already annoyed. So he kind of like pulls a branch down when we walk by, and he kind of like turns a little bit to look at us. I'm like, okay, we're not going to mess with him. So we get all the way back down. It was like a mountain road that you're going up and down. We get all the way back down to the bottom. We don't see any more elephants. I'm like, well, I really need to film a few more segments in order to complete this video. And that elephant was kind of annoyed. So maybe he's moved off the road by now. So we drive back up. And keep in mind, this is a 2-lane, 2-way road. And on the shoulders, it's been like cut like maybe 10 feet to like just the brush. And then the elephant was like in the grass, like feeding and browsing on the vegetation that like starts like 10 feet off the road. Well, so now we're driving back up, and you don't realize how invisible elephants are in the dark. Like they're very dark, and they don't have very very bright eye shine. So like you just see these faint little purple glowing eyes when you shine your flashlight, and then you get close enough, and then like within 20 feet is when you can start to see the outline of this big gray hulking creature. So anyway, we start driving back up. Hopefully, that elephant's not there anymore. We'll see if we can find any more. And no, this elephant has now moved from the shoulder of the road into the street, and he's walking up the left lane. And in Thailand, you drive on the left side of the road. So we're like 20 feet away, and then we can see, oh, the elephant's there. So my buddy David and Gage were in front of me on a bike. I was behind them. So David, I'm thinking, okay, we're about to just turn around. This is obviously the same elephant that we've been bothering. So we'll just turn around. No, David speeds up and zooms past him, passes him on the right lane. At this point, the elephant hears this and turns perpendicular with the road. And I'm still kind of just idling forward, like, I don't know, slow, like 20 kilometers per hour. And I'm like, just going, wait a second. This isn't like passing a car. Like, this is an elephant that's annoyed with us, that is like 10 feet away from me at this point. So I'm like, I don't have time to turn around. I just got to slam it. So I slam the acceleration, and I start speeding up, and I whip as far into the right lane as I can. And I just remember hearing like a scuff on the road. And if elephants have these extremely well adapted foot pads that help disperse their weight as they walk. So they actually have their toes kind of up, and then they have this big kind of pad that mushes down when they walk. So they kind of like almost walk on their tiptoes, and they have this big fleshy pad under that foot. So they're very quiet when they walk generally. So when I heard that scuff, I was like, he must be kind of coming towards me. So I remember I turned back, and seriously, at maybe as far away as this wall is from me, I saw lit up in my red kind of tail light this elephant, ears flared, like trunk bald, and like like right there. And I was like, okay. So I just narrowly escaped him. And I get up to David and Gage, who have like stopped and turned around to see what was happening. And I get up to them, and they're like ghost white. They're like, we thought you were about to get like killed by an elephant. And I was like, it was right after I got this tattoo from a monk. And this is supposed to like protect you from like evil and also from like harm. And so like basically like our friend translated, she's like, oh yeah, it just basically means like you're immortal, like you can't be killed. And so after that, I drove up and I drove up to them and they're like, dude, are you okay? Are you okay? And I just went, I'm immortal. But yeah, that's probably the closest I've ever come to death, is almost being like smashed to death by an angry elephant. So obviously we didn't get that on camera because nobody was rolling. And then we didn't end up being able to complete that episode. So I just have a bunch of footage of us like riding around on bikes, like filming elephants. But I got a great story out of it. So great question. Has there been any point in time where you genuinely thought your life was in danger? Yes. Um, there are over 700 identified different species of jumping spider in the state I live in. So the answer is a lot. Yes, there is so many spiders. Would you consider it to be a good or bad idea to feed a mouse or a rat that you catch in your home to your pet snake? Any wild caught feeders can, of course, have any number of parasites or ingested toxins or anything like that. Usually, I would say no, I wouldn't do it. Especially like if you or any of your neighbors use any like a rodenticide, rat poisons, anything like that, like the rodents can still run around for a few days, even with a lethal dosage of that poison before it kills them. So you're like, oh, I was able to catch this mouse, and he just snacked on some a rodenticide. You feed him to the snake. Now the snake has just ingested rodenticide, and now the snake is dead. So I would recommend no, I wouldn't do that. Spencer says, Spencer says he cackled like an idiot when you talked about my bite. Yes, I believe you, Spencer. It was pretty interesting. It was a centipede pinning gone wrong that got the best of old Spencer here, and he survived, so he's good. Yadira says, yes, I'm excited for the bite from a giant Southwest desert centipede. I'll be tuned in. Glad to hear it. Hopefully we can get that figured out soon. Um, I have seen several videos of African elephants rolling vehicles on safaris. Yes, elephants can be cantankerous, especially males, especially during must, which is kind of when they go like the males kind of like it's not necessarily like going into heat, but it is like their hormones like get jacked to 100. Like they have like 10 times the amount of testosterone as normal, and they basically just see red. So they'll just like straight up attack and kill other animals. Um, they just like go crazy. And for a lot of these younger males, they're super frustrated because the larger males are the only ones who are able to fight and beat the smaller males and mate. So the younger males have all these hormones and all this stuff going on, and then they still don't even have any release with mating. So they get extra angry when that happens, as you can imagine. How long did you keep animals? I kept animals for a long, long, long time. I've been keeping animals almost my entire life. In some way, shape, or form, I've been keeping animals for the past, I don't know, 18 years. Yeah, long time. Maybe 19 years. Yeah. I've kept all sorts of stuff. Everything from lizards, frogs, venomous snakes, coral reef aquariums. I had a mantis shrimp for a long time, anglerfish. I had some porcupines. I've had I had a spectacled caiman for a few years. I had just tons and tons and tons of stuff. Black widows, tarantulas, centipedes, beetles, the whole nine yards. Anything you could think of. I've kept the turtles. I mean, a lot of stuff. I got a question. I always name the Parastata in my apartment something cute. What should I name the next one? That's a great question. I'm thinking, let me think. What is a great name? Let's see. I'm thinking Goob. 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 It's a great name. Solid name. Strong name. Goob. That's what I'm going to say. That's cute enough. That's cute enough. What is the most venomous bite you have taken unintentionally? Great question. I'm going to discount the additional bite that I received on the finger from the black widow when it was agitated from me pinning it. So I'm going to take that out. The most venomous sting or bite I've taken unintentionally was probably my Neoponera velosa. When I transferred them, I caught a small colony in a cup, and I transferred them into that cup. And then once they were in that cup, I needed to transfer them into the vivarium after I built it, and I got stung like 6 times because I was transferring them, and then they would crawl up my arm and they would get into my shirt, and then when my shirt would like move, it would like pin them to my back, and I had like 5 stings, all of them all on my back, and they're painful stings. Like, it's easily one of the most painful ant sting in the US. Like, they're big ants, painful sting. So I was just like, "Oh, yeah," shaking around my shirt, like trying to catch him. It was awful. I would say that was the worst and most venomous stings that I had taken unintentionally. I was not planning on being stung when I was moving those. Any experience keeping isopods? Absolutely. I used to keep quite a few isopods, dairy cows, and some of the Cubaris, like the ducky isopods. I also, for a brief time, had some of the amphibious, like marine wharf roach isopods, Ligia exotica. I actually was able to breed those in captivity. I had them in like a little, like, kind of tide pool, saltwater, like paludarium kind of thing, which is really, really interesting. And yeah, they were super, super cool. I ended up breaking down that paludarium because it was just such a pain to maintain and keep up with, because I would have to do water changes, and it's like all the work of a saltwater aquarium, except like you're not seeing any of these beautiful fish or coral or anything. It's just like wharf roaches. But yeah, I've kept isopods for a long time. In fact, I still keep them, but in my vivariums, I keep like dwarf whites and like a tiny like dwarf species I found here in Texas, and they kind of clean up the poop and detritus and organic waste in my vivariums. Have you ever handled a black mamba? I actually haven't. I've handled a green mamba. My buddy has a green mamba, but a black mamba is one that I never like personally kept. I've kept a lot of cobras. I've kept a lot of vipers and things, rattlesnakes, all sorts of venomous snakes. We just never had a black mamba in the collection, so I've never personally worked with a black mamba. Mambas are a little intimidating for me because they're lapid, so they're very quick. They're very wiry, but they're also arboreal, so they're very good climbers. They can be difficult to kind of keep a handle on. But I would love to get some more experience in working with them for sure. I got my first pet, Latrodectus mactans. I've wanted one for so long. Thought you might appreciate it. I sure would. Uh, they make great pets. They're a lot more nervous animals than people imagine, and they're great. Just feed her a medium-sized prey item once a week, and she'll be happy as can be. Um, Try not to feed them too much, though. They are gluttons, and they will continue to eat and eat and eat. And sometimes, I mean, I've done this in the past too on accident, where you put too big of a prey item or you feed them too often, and they just get too fat and they just die. It can mess up some of their internal organs and stuff. Crabs are arthropods too. Yes, that is correct. Anything with an exoskeleton is an arthropod. Goob, I love it. I'm glad you love it. I got a cat named Bean, also a great name. Can you do a video sometime of a tour of your insect slash reptile room? Yes, although it's kind of underwhelming now. I am downsizing a ton of my animal collection because I'm trying to travel a lot more. So I don't really have a crazy amount of stuff anymore. And a lot of my stuff is kind of divided up. Like I have a larger reptile room over at my parents' house, and then now, as you can see, I'm somewhere else. I'm in my apartment, so I just have my ants here. I don't have my spiders or my frogs or anything. So it's just kind of like I'm working on selling a lot of the tanks. I'm working on selling a lot of the frogs, so I don't have a ton of stuff to show you guys. So that's kind of the main reason I haven't done like an animal room tour or frog room tour in a while, because it's just not as impressive or interesting or full as it used to be. Is there going to be a giant water bug video? Yes. Like a bite video? Yes, eventually. If I can find one, yes. Why not? How do you set up your out of country expeditions? Great question. Man, you guys are still coming up with questions. It's been almost 2 hours now. Um, Great question. It totally depends on what country I'm going to. I usually plan most of my trips myself. Sometimes I'll have help, like if I'm meeting up with somebody in the country. Like most recently, when we went to Thailand, my buddy David and my buddy Rupert, and Harry, they run a herpetological tour. So like you can pay, and then they kind of take you to these different areas to find what you're looking for. Um, so sometimes we have things like that where we are uh, kind of meeting up with people who know the area. So they're just like, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do that. Or like in Costa Rica, uh, I buy the plane tickets. We go down, we rent a car, and then I book our like Airbnbs and stuff like that. So, and then we kind of like know what regions we want to look at, and look for parks and look for areas that we can go in and like hike around at and find stuff in. So it really kind of depends on where we're going as to how we set it up. But usually it's just kind of like we get a ticket, and then we've got money to get hotels and rent a car and yada, yada, yada. And that's kind of the full extent of what we do right now. What's your favorite snake you ever kept? I had an eastern hognose snake for a while. Really, really cool. Fed it, of course, toads. That's what they eat in the wild. Kept it very naturally. They're one of my favorite species of snake. I just raised out a baby and then released it. So it was really, really cool experience. But most of my favorite snakes I've kept have been venomous snakes. My buddy and I had a big venomous snake collection that we had kind of pooled together. So we kind of kept each other's stuff. I got to work with his king cobra quite a lot. I love king cobras. You've actually seen her if you've watched my angry king cobra video. It's Miss Peanut is her name, and also feeding a king cobra, that video, that's also Miss Peanut. She is a Indo-Malayan king cobra, and she is a beautiful, beautiful snake, and one of my favorite snakes I've ever worked with. She is so beautiful, so great. I really enjoy working with cobras in particular. I would say they're some of my favorite. Really inquisitive, very intelligent snakes. Very fun to kind of work with, and of course, very impressive and beautiful snakes, depending on the species. So I would say my favorite snakes I've ever kept have been cobras or cobra adjacent. Um, Reptiles are definitely my favorite in the animal kingdom. I had a black and white Argentinian tegu that grew almost 5 feet long and lived for 9 years. Tegus are super, super cool. Glad you like reptiles and amphibians. They are really, really neat. Do whatever it takes to make a video on rain frogs. That would be really, really cool. Sadly, people don't seem to respond very positively to my frog videos. I wish that people would like my amphibian videos a little bit more, because I love amphibians. They're so cool, but my salamanders and frog videos haven't always been the best performance-wise on the channel. I still really like them. Okay, I'm going to answer questions for 6.5 more minutes, and then we're going to cut it at about 2 hours. So anybody who's got any last minute questions, I'm going to try and get to all of them within these next few minutes. Yes, I would love to see more videos on frogs and toads. That's great, because I have a frog and a toad video from Thailand that'll be coming out here in, well, I actually don't know when, in the next few weeks here, or months. We'll see. Let's see. Do your parents help take care of your animals? If so, what are their thoughts on that? They really don't. Most of my stuff is pretty easy to kind of like work out. Most of my stuff I can leave for about a week at a time if I take care of it really well before I leave. So I usually do like a big kind of care day before I leave. And then if I'm gone for longer than a week, I have another one of my friends come by and like take care of everything, spray the frogs down, feed the frogs, yada yada yada. I actually have a system where I cut up a piece of banana and I leave it in the frog tank. So when the fruit flies go in there, they lay a bunch of eggs on the banana. So the adults eat all the adult fruit flies, the adult frogs, and then the larvae hatch and they start eating up the banana. It's got put a lot of vitamins and stuff on it, and then the frogs can snack on the larvae until I get back to feed them again. So usually I don't have to have my family watch many of the animals. It's a lot easier now, though, if I do have an emergency where they have to watch them. Sometimes they'll spray the frogs or check on them for me. It's a lot easier than when I used to have like venomous snakes and they had to like poke their heads in and see if they had water and everything like that. Toad is a misnomer for a group of frogs. I forgot what it's called. So frogs and toads are in a group called the anurans, and that is all the kind of four-legged hopping, or I guess that some of them walk. The kind of without a tail amphibians once they metamorphize. Um, so a toad is a frog, but not all frogs are toads. So they're all technically just frogs, but toad is generally a name we give to any frog that has like rough or warty skin, um, that is a little more kind of dehydration tolerant, I guess. What state do you usually film your videos? Like like a state in the United States? I usually film my videos in Texas because that's where I live. But I try and film in a lot of spots. We film in Oklahoma a lot too because I live kind of more northern, so I can get to Oklahoma in a few hours usually. Have you been to or would you go to the Amazon rainforest? Never been, would love to. Yes, frogs, rain frogs are adorable. Yes, frogs are awesome. I love a good frog. Are there any interesting delicacies you've come across on your travels that either gross you out or made you want to try it again? I haven't really come across too many like interesting things. I haven't really traveled to many regions where they put a lot of stock into like these interesting and bizarre cuisines. Like even Thailand, like is pretty much like the street food is delicious, but traditionally they don't have like a lot of like scorpions on the stick and stuff like that. Like there's some spots where it's like more touristy where they just kind of like, oh yeah, you want to eat a scorpion. But not too many places that I've gone that have been like, ooh, that's gross. Um, I've had octopus. I don't like to eat octopus very regularly because they're very intelligent invertebrates. But that is a very strange texture if you're not used to it. Um, not too many like strange delicacies. I love to try new food. I don't really have a very sensitive stomach, so I love to try cuisines and interesting dishes when I travel. Um, so I like to try new things, but I haven't come across too many things that are like really crazy or weird. What is my favorite food? I like a lot of fried food. I eat a lot of like fried chicken and French fries and all that stuff. Oh, sorry, Derek. We're doing a live stream, so I'm answering questions. But I'm sorry to say that we're cutting it at 2 hours, and we're currently at almost an hour 58. So if you have a question that you would like answered, ask now or forever hold your peace. I might start doing some more like regular live streams, but I'm going to be kind of traveling in and out the next kind of few months. So it'll be difficult to kind of calculate when and where I'm going to be able to do live streams. Okay, I'm going to answer these next few questions, and I'm going to try and end it as close to 2 hours as possible. Is Steve Irwin an inspiration for you? Of course. Love the man. He's a great man, great inspiration. Did some great work. His family's still doing some great work. What's new? Nothing much. How about you? What is your opinion on the wild hog problems in Texas? Horrible. It ruins a lot of our ecosystems, which have already been pretty much slashed by development and agriculture and um colonialism and all that stuff. I mean, most of Texas's wild space has been taken up for one thing or another. If you could mount a camera on your forehead and do wildlife finding streams where you just run around and looking for animals, um, if I could do that, would I? Yeah, that would be super cool. My only problem is like it's really hard to like get an internet connection at a lot of the spots I go to. So it's very difficult to do a live stream out in the middle of nowhere and have it not just like drop out or be really low quality and that kind of thing. How's the wildlife in Texas? Have you been finding much recently? I was finding some. I got 2 videos filmed last week, but then we had a huge cold front come in, so I don't know that I'll be filming really much of anything else in Texas for the rest of the year. But you might have missed it, Derek. I'm going to South Florida in a few weeks, and that should be a little more comfortable weather. Do I have any pets? Yes, I do. I have some frogs. I have some spiders. I have some beetles, and I have some ants. Or you could just have videos like that, like just kind of like more like bloggy style, like going out in the field, like let's see what all I can find in 30 minutes kind of thing. Yeah, that would be really interesting. Can you give us a rundown on your personal animal collection? I mostly keep Ufaga genus dart frogs in bioactive vivariums. I also have some spiders. I have some jumping spiders and some widow spiders. And then I have quite a lot of beetle larvae that I keep. And eventually they turn into beetles and then they die pretty quickly because beetles don't live for very long. The larvae take forever to grow. And that's pretty much it. That's all I've got right now. That's cool. Love tarantulas. They're sweet. What was the most painful sting I've ever taken? The most painful bite was Black Widow, and the most painful sting was Vespa tropica, which was the greater banded hornet, tiger wasp. Do you keep the trippy frog? I forget what it's called. No, I do not have a Sonoran desert frog or toad. Sonoran desert toad. I do not have that. Before you go, I just want to say thank you for everything you do. Thank you guys so much. Yes, I'm sorry to say our time has come to an end. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I wanted to do a live stream where we just kind of have another Q&A style thing. We might do a few more Q&As. I know there's a lot of people that have some questions that they want answered, and I tried to get to as many as I could today, but of course there's still more and more and more and plenty to talk about. We've grown so much this year, over 50,000 new subscribers this year alone. So I wanted to put out a new kind of a live video, so a lot of these new people that might not know the answers to a lot of these questions can get some of these answers to their questions. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned some stuff. I hope you had a fun time. I know I had a fun time. I respond to so many of your comments, so it might not feel like a special thing, but uh, sometimes I don't know if people know it's me responding to the comments, if they think I have like some team of people like responding to all my comments. No, it's usually me. I just answer my comments. I see them kind of come in and out. I like to answer them. The positive ones, at least. I ignore a lot of the negative Nellies and whatnot. But I'd like to be able to kind of put my face to it sometimes too, where you guys get to see some of what I'm doing on here. Uh, wait before you go. I want to see you fight Kevin from the Urban Rescue Ranch. I'm not sure I know who Kevin is. I don't usually fight people ever, really. So I think I'm gonna have to pass on that. What's your hair look like? It's all crammed into a hat right now. I got a haircut on the sides. The rest, I'm not so sure about. Glad to be a part of it. I'll be here for future streams. Glad to hear it, Spencer. Oh, I guess is this your first stream that you've tuned into? Because I used to do some a while ago. Oh, Kevin is a Rhea. Yeah, I could take a Rhea. I could take a Rhea, no problem. Rhea, come on. That's a small rat tight. I got him. If it was like a cassowary, I don't think so. But a Rhea, yeah, I could take him. I'm sorry. I only watch like a handful of other channels and very sparingly. Like I don't watch a lot of other YouTube channels. I just kind of like create content for YouTube, and that's kind of my spiel. But thank you guys all for tuning in. I hope that you had fun. I hope that you enjoyed the stream. I am going to shut everything down now. But I hope that you had some fun. I hope that you learned something, and of course, I hope that you keep watching and interacting with the content. If you haven't watched it yet, go check out our newest jumping spider video. I was thinking it was going to blow up and do super, super crazy, but so far it's been kind of a slow start. So if you feel led to like, comment, share that video, that would be amazing. But other than that, I hope you guys take it easy. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, a great rest of your week. I guess great start to your week. I don't know. It's kind of Sunday, so it's kind of a weird nebulous spot to start. But I hope you all enjoyed it, and maybe I'll see you for some more live streams. I think you guys liked this one, so maybe I'll do some more for you guys. But thanks so much. I will see you next time. End.